Girivaradari Jaya Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradari Jaya Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Munatira Vanachari Namunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravishara Stotra Sakatishima His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Tagore Premanande Hari Hari Bo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna, very happy Srila Prabhupada Vyasa Puja to everyone. Today is the most auspicious day of Srila Prabhupada's appearance. And today we'll be reading from 11th Canto, Chapter 3, text number 21. So it's a very famous verse that Prabhupada would often quote in his purports and lectures and conversations. And this verse talks about the qualities or the qualifications of a spiritual master. So we recite the Sanskrit. Tasmad Gurum Prapajyeta Tasmad Gurum Prapajyeta Jignasu Shraya Uttamam Jignasu Shraya Uttamam Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam Brahmani Upasamashrayam Tasmad Gurum Prapajyeta Jignashu Shraya Uttamam Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam Tasmad Gurum Prapajyeta Jignasu Shraya Uttamam Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam Tasmad Gurum Prapajyeta Jignashu Shraya Uttamam Shabde pare cha nishnatam Brahmani upasamashrayam. Word for word translation, Tasmat, therefore, Gurum, a spiritual master, Prapajeta, one should take shelter of, Jignasu, being inquisitive, Shreya Uttamam, about the highest good, Shabde, in the Vedas, Pare, in the Supreme, Cha, and Nisnatam, perfectly knowledgeable, Brahmani, in these two aspects of the Absolute Truth, Upasamashrayam, fixed in detachment from material affairs. So the translation of purport is done by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. The purport is very long. It goes for more than 3 pages. It goes for 4 or 5 pages. So we'll just read the first paragraph of the purport and the translation we'll discuss. Okay, so translation. Therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of the bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, the word Sabde refers to the Vedic literature and Pare refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The bona fide spiritual master must be Nishnatam, deeply experienced in authorized Vedic literatures and in practical understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without scriptural knowledge and practical realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a so-called guru will be unable to dissipate the doubts of his disciples and therefore unable to execute the function of bringing the sincere student back home, back to Godhead. The symptom of realized understanding of the Vedas and Krishna is upasamashrayam. In other words, the bona fide spiritual master is one who has retired from the glittering illusions of materialistic society, friendship and love. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksulmaitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So again a very happy Srila Prabhupada Vyasa Puja for everyone. So as I was mentioning earlier on, this is a very famous verse of the Bhagavatam which Prabhupada will often quote, and this verse describes about the qualifications of a bona fide spiritual master. So some of the qualifications given here are that if we go to the translation, we can read that the qualification of the bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusions of all the scriptures by deliberation. So that's number one. The first qualification of a bona fide guru is that he has personally realized the conclusion, the essence of all the shastras. And number two, he is able to convince others of these conclusions. So not only is he understand the meaning of all the shastras himself, but he has the potency, he has the purity, the bhakti shakti coming from Krishna himself. He has the empowerment to also convince others about the truths of the scriptures and to convert others into devotees of Krishna, inspire others to take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. So those are two qualities, and then the verse goes on, such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead. So that's quality number 3, that the bona fide spiritual master must be a devotee of the Supreme Lord, must have taken full, complete shelter of the Lord. And quality number 4, he should have leaving aside all material considerations. So he is completely, if you read the word-for-word translation, the last word is called Upasamashrayam. And Upasamashrayam means fixed in detachment from material affairs. So quality number 3 is that he has fully surrendered himself at the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. And quality number 4 is that he is completely detached from sense gratification. He is completely detached from all material affairs. So in this way, this verse gives us a very nice overview of the qualifications that a bona fide spiritual master should have. And since today is Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja, I thought we can discuss a bit about Srila Prabhupada's glorious life or his presence here in this planet and his glorious pastimes and activities. And in the course of describing Prabhupada's Leelas, we'll see how Prabhupada was demonstrating all of these qualities in his life as the ideal or the bona fide spiritual master. So we were hearing recently about how one of Prabhupada's disciples, he was sharing his realization of why is it that Prabhupada, he appeared one day after Janmashtami. Prabhupada could have chosen to appear in this material world on the same day as Krishna on Janmashtami. But instead Prabhupada, he chooses to appear on the day after Janmashtami, on Nandotsava. So one of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, he was sharing his realization that the reason Prabhupada, he appeared a day after Janmashtami is that Prabhupada didn't want any of the attention during Janmashtami, which is supposed to go towards Krishna, to come towards him. So this is the mood of the devotee of the Lord. He's in a very humble consciousness and he wants all the credit, he wants all the attention, he wants all the glorification to go to the Supreme Lord Krishna. And he doesn't want any attention and glorification to himself. So in this way, one of the disciples of Prabhupada, they were sharing this realization that Prabhupada, he didn't appear on Janmashtami because if he appeared on Janmashtami, then devotees' attention, they won't, instead of going fully towards Krishna, some will go towards Krishna and some will go towards him. And Prabhupada didn't want that. Being a humble servant of the Lord, he wanted full attention to go towards Krishna on his birthday, on his appearance day. So Prabhupada, he chose to appear on the day after Janmashtami. And we can see, there's another nice Prabhupada Leela pastime where you can see the mood of the Acharya, the mood of the spiritual master. Although he's worshipped exactly as if he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Shastras explain that Shakshad Dharitvena Samasta Shastra, that the spiritual master should be considered as good as God. The spiritual master should be offered respect and worship on the same level as one would worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But although the disciples, they worship the spiritual master with such awe and reverence, with such veneration as if they're worshipping Krishna himself, the spiritual master from his side, he doesn't see himself as very great, but he just sees himself as a very small, humble servant of the Lord. And whatever praise and glories and worship that comes to the spiritual master, he just takes that and passes it on to his spiritual master, and that way it goes towards Krishna. And there's one nice Prabhupada Leela where we can see Prabhupada's humble mood in this scenario. One time, Prabhupada had gone to a new temple, and devotees, one particular devotee, he picked up the mridanga and he started leading the kirtan for Guru Puja. So he sang the whole Guru Puja prayers written by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. And after singing the prayers given by Narottam Das Thakur for Guru Puja, the kirtan stopped, and the person who was leading the kirtan, he stopped the kirtan. And then at this time, all the devotees, okay, Guru Puja is finished, okay, we'll now go off to Bhagavatam class. But to the surprise of all the devotees, the personal servant of Srila Prabhupada at that time, even though the kirtan had stopped, he again picked up the mridanga and then he started chanting Hare Krishna. And then all the devotees in this temple, they were wondering that we just did Guru Puja and we finished the kirtan. Why is this personal servant of Srila Prabhupada again picking up the mridanga and again starting the kirtan, and why is he chanting Hare Krishna? And they were a bit confused about the actions of this personal servant, that maybe he wants, maybe he has some ulterior motive, maybe he wants to be in the spotlight, maybe he also wants to lead like that. But then later on, this personal servant, he explained himself to the devotees at this new temple. This personal servant explained that it is Srila Prabhupada's desire that during Guru Puja, he doesn't want only praise and glorification of himself, but along with glorification of himself, he also wants the lordships, Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, to also be glorified. So that's why Prabhupada, he likes that after we sing the prayers of Guru Puja, Prabhupada wants us to chant Hare Krishna and worship the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. So in this way, Prabhupada, he established this system that during Guru Puja, Prabhupada just didn't want us to only worship him and glorify him, but Prabhupada wanted that along with his glorification, along with the Guru Puja, afterwards, Prabhupada wants us to turn around and do a small Hare Krishna Kirtan and worship the Lordship Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. So this is the mood of the spiritual master. From his side, he just sees himself as the most humble servant or the servitor of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. Although so much praise and so much glorification comes to him, he doesn't take any of this, he just passes it on to his spiritual masters. So many times when Prabhupada was praised by his disciples, by others, he would always push on that praise towards his spiritual master, saying that I'm a fool, whatever little success I have, it's all just due to the mercy of my Guru Maharaj, it's all due to the mercy of my spiritual master. His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Thakur. So in this way, this is the very humble mood of the spiritual master. And if you think about it, it's actually a very difficult position to be in. Just like for us, if someone just gives us a little praise, a little glorification, immediately, just some insignificant glorification or just a little praise about something very small and tiny we do, immediately it gets to our head and immediately we become very proud and we start thinking, oh, we're so great. And this way a false ego becomes very puffed up. Just by doing some small insignificant service nicely, we become so easily puffed up and proud. But here we see the position of the spiritual master. Not only is he just praised and glorified just for small things, but he's literally worshipped on the same level as God. He's literally worshipped on the same level as Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. So someone who's being worshipped with such awe and reverence and still being able to maintain that humble mood, still being able to maintain that servant of the servant mood is actually very extremely difficult. So in this way we can meditate on the position of the spiritual master, maintaining this humble mood while at the same time being worshipped by hundreds and thousands of disciples and getting people to offer you garlands, getting people to offer you flowers or your lotus feet, worshipping you just as if you're God, and at the same time maintaining the humble position of being a very humble servant of the Lord. It's actually very extremely difficult. And many times Prabhupada, he displayed this quality of humility. Like one time Prabhupada was giving a lecture, and usually during lectures, naturally as disciples, they want to worship Prabhupada on the same level as God, so they erect a nice Vyasasana for Srila Prabhupada, for Prabhupada to sit on and give class, to give lecture on. So at the end of one particular lecture, I think Prabhupada is giving at a university, one particular student in a very challenging way, he starts challenging Srila Prabhupada that how come you're sitting on this elevated seat while we're all seated like this? You think you're so great that you're sitting on this very nice opulent seat? You think you're greater than all of us? You must think that you're better than all of us. And like this, the student was challenging Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, in a very humble mood, he starts pleading with the student and saying that no, actually I don't think I'm very great. I don't think I'm first class or second class. Actually my position is such that I'm not even fourth class, I'm fifth class. I am the lowest of all. So when Prabhupada's disciples, they heard this, they were completely shocked at the humility of Srila Prabhupada. Here he is, Jagat Guru, the spiritual master, of the whole world. He's opening temples and spreading the movement of Mahaprabhu in every nook and corner of the world. But here is Prabhupada saying that actually I'm not first class, second class, I'm not even fourth class, I'm actually fifth class, I am the lowest of all. I am not qualified. In this way Prabhupada, he takes, many times we'll see Prabhupada, he'll take a very humble mood. Another pastime I can remember, that one time Prabhupada was visiting some temple and the devotees in that temple, they weren't able to arrange things properly. I'm not sure what exactly celebration or function was going on, but devotees, out of ignorance, they weren't able to do anything properly. Maybe it was an initiation ceremony or something. And Prabhupada, as the guru, spiritual master, it's his duty to correct his disciples. So Prabhupada, in his transference to anger, he was correcting the disciples that, why you did like this, why you did like this, why this hasn't been done, why this hasn't been done. So in this way, Prabhupada, as a loving father, was correcting his disciples. And at this time, one particular new devotee, he comes up to Prabhupada and tells Prabhupada. He's just a randomly new person who's just joined recently. And this new devotee comes up to Prabhupada and instructs Srila Prabhupada that, you shouldn't be so angry, you should be peaceful and calm and quiet. So like this new bhakta or just some random person, he just comes and like this instructs Srila Prabhupada. And this person, either he's a new devotee or he's just a random guy who's just come to the temple. And he's instructing the spiritual master of the whole world, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada, that, why are you angry like this? You should be peaceful, calm and quiet. Calm down, chant Hare Krishna. Like this new person, this new devotee, he instructs Srila Prabhupada. And what does Srila Prabhupada do? Srila Prabhupada doesn't say anything, he's just quiet. And he follows what this new devotee says. He just picks up his bead bag and he just starts chanting Hare Krishna. So the disciples of Prabhupada present there was sharing their realization of how this is another instance of Prabhupada's extreme humility. Who is this person? He's just a completely brand new devotee who just recently joined the temple. But Prabhupada, showing his immense humility, is taking his instructions to heart. Yes, what he's saying is right, I should chant Hare Krishna. Although his anger was not mature, transcendental, still, for the sake of teaching his disciples humility, for the sake of teaching his disciples the importance of chanting Hare Krishna, Prabhupada listened to this brand new devotee and he quietly picked up his beads and started chanting Hare Krishna. So in this way we'll see in Prabhupada's pastimes, if we read Prabhupada Leela books like Leelamrit, many cases or instances where Prabhupada shows extreme humility, which I was mentioning before, is actually, if you think about it, if you meditate on it, it's actually very, very extremely difficult to do. On one hand, you're worshipped on the same level as God, and on the other hand, you're still maintaining that very humble position of being the servant of the servant. It's inconceivable how one can maintain that humility when he's put in that position. That's why we'll see that many devotees, although they'll be very great and elevated, they'll refuse to accept disciples. They'll refuse to take the role of a spiritual master. Because when one takes the role of a spiritual master, one will get so much worship and praise, and that fear is there that this praise and glorification will get to me and I might, my consciousness might come down. So, going back to Srila Prabhupada's appearance, as I was mentioning before, the disciple of Prabhupada sharing his realization that Prabhupada didn't want to take any attention away from Krishna during Janmashtami, so that's why Prabhupada appeared one day after Janmashtami. And Srila Prabhupada's appearance is predicted in the Shastras also. For example, in the book called Chaitanya Mangal, so as we know there's different biographies written of Mahaprabhu's pastimes. There's the famous Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita written by Krishnadasa Kaviraj Goswami, which Prabhupada has translated and written purports to. Then we have Chaitanya Bhagavat written by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, which talks about the earlier pastimes of Mahaprabhu. And there's another book called the Chaitanya Mangal. And His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, in his Gauranga book, he narrates one particular pastime from the Chaitanya Mangal, which I think is written by Lochan Das Thakur. So Maharaj, he quotes a very nice, beautiful pastime from this beautiful book called Chaitanya Mangal. And the pastime as it goes, in this pastime we see the prophecy of Krishna or Mahaprabhu himself prophesying the appearance of Srila Prabhupada in this material world. So as the pastime goes, one day Krishna, he goes towards the palace of Sri Rukmani Devi, and as he enters the palace and he sees Rukmani Devi, he sees that Rukmani Devi is morose and lamenting. And he's wondering, why is my dear wife Rukmani, in such a morose state today? Why is she lamenting? Why is she crying? And so Krishna, he asks his wife, his dear wife Rukmani Devi, that why is it that, what's wrong? What has happened? Is it because of this? Is it because of that? Why are you so morose today? Why are you crying? And then Rukmani Devi, she says, no, you won't understand, you won't understand. There's only one person who will understand the grief and the sorrow I'm going through, and that person is Srimati Radharani. What is the sorrow I'm going through? That now you're here with me, and now I have your association, but soon, in just a matter of time, you'll leave me. And thinking of the imminent separation which I'm going to feel, when you leave, I am feeling the pangs of separation, I'm feeling the pangs of lamentation, which is coming from that imminent separation, which is going to come from you. So like this, Rukmini Devi, she explained the reason for her lamentation. And she said that only Srimati Radharani can understand this lamentation and separation from you. You can't understand this. Now at the same time, Narad Muni, he also comes into the palace of Rukmini Devi. And Narad Muni also, usually is very happy and jolly, chanting and singing Hare Krishna and different bhajans and glorification of Supreme Lord. But this time when Narad Muni is coming to the palace at this time, Narad Muni also, he seems very disturbed in mind. And Krishna, he wonders, what's going on today? Today is my bad day. On one hand, my wife, she's lamenting. On one hand, my wife is distressed and morose. On the other hand, my Gurudev Narad Muni, he's also disturbed in mind. He's also sad and depressed. What's going on? Both ways, my wife is unhappy and my spiritual master also is unhappy. So in this way, Krishna is wondering what's going on today. So Narad Muni comes, and then Krishna again, he inquires from Narad Muni that, Guruji, that you seem to be disturbed in mind. Something is disturbing you. What's happened? Please tell me how I can serve you. Like this, Krishna, he washes Narad Muni's lotus feet and inquires from Narad Muni, what is it that's disturbing your mind? Then Narad Muni explains to Krishna that I'm thinking of the future. I'm thinking of the future age of Kali Yuga and about all the souls, conditioned souls who are going to suffer. Now you're here performing your pastimes, but after you leave, how will all these fallen conditioned souls of Kali Yuga be delivered? Thinking of their suffering in the future age, I am worried in my mind. And then Krishna, at this time, he thinks to himself, on one hand, I have this problem that my wife is going through this lamentation of separation, and she's saying that I can't understand it. The only person that can understand it is Srimati Radharani. On the other hand, my Guruji is saying that he's distressed about the fallen conditioned souls of Kali Yuga. So Krishna, he puts these two problems together, and then he decides, okay, I can fix both these problems together by appearing as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by appearing again in Kali Yuga. So then Krishna, he instructs Narad Muni that don't worry, the fallen conditioned souls in Kali Yuga, I'll deliver them. I'll personally incarnate in Kali Yuga again, and I'll come as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'll come in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So in this way, he can experience what Srimati Rukmini Devi is experiencing, and at the same time, he can put away the lamentation of Narad Muni about the deliverance of the fallen conditioned souls. And then Krishna, he instructs Narad Muni that go on and go to all the demigods and go to all the different denizens of the heavenly planets, go to Brahma, Shiva, and all the great personalities in the universe, and ask them to descend down onto planet Earth and to help me and assist me in my pastime. Soon I'm going to come, appear in Kali Yuga, and you go and tell all the different demigods to also take birth and to also participate in my pastimes. So in this way, Narad Muni, he goes to different planetary systems, and he invites different personalities like Brahma, Shiva, and so on and so forth, different demigods and different great personalities around the universe, telling that Krishna himself is personally going to incarnate as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Kali Yuga. You all get ready to descend and participate in his pastimes. Then as the story goes in Chaitanya Mangal, it's explained, then Narad Muni, he goes to Swetadip, the portion of Goloka Vrindavan. So as we know, in Goloka Vrindavan, there's two sections. There's the section where Radha Gopinath are present along with all the associates, and then there's the other section which is called Swetadip, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally present with his associates. So in this way, Goloka Vrindavan has these two divisions. There's the division where the pastimes of the divine couple are going, Shri Radha Krishna, and then there's the other division called Swetadip, where Mahaprabhu and his leelas are going on. So then Narad Muni in his travels, he goes to Swetadip, that other division of Goloka Vrindavan, where Mahaprabhu is personally present. And then Mahaprabhu approaches, Narad Muni approaches Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and at that time, as the story goes in Chaitanya Mangal, Mahaprabhu was being worshipped by different queens of Dwarka and the different gopis. And at that time, Narad Muni comes and pleads with Mahaprabhu that you please descend in Kali Yuga soon, and please bestow your favor upon the fallen conditioned souls of Kali Yuga. And Mahaprabhu says, yes, no doubt I will come, no doubt I'll appear. And then Mahaprabhu, he asked all of his associates around him that, okay, I'm going to go into the universe of the four-headed Brahma. This Narad Muni has just come from the universe of the four-headed Brahma, and he wants me to deliver the fallen conditioned souls in Kali Yuga in the universe of the four-headed Brahma. I'm going to personally descend down. Who wants to come with me? So like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked. And then all the devotees around him, they all put their hand up. I want to come, I want to come, I want to come. So in this way, Mahaprabhu, he recruits all of his devotees. And in this way, they all make plans or get ready to descend down in Kali Yuga to save all the fallen conditioned souls. And Mahaprabhu, he personally pacifies Narad Muni, because Narad Muni, he's feeling this pangs, like we read from Prabhupada's purports. The mood of the Acharya, the mood of the Vaishnava is para dukkha dukhi. He feels dukkha, he feels anxiety, he feels suffering upon seeing the suffering of others. So Narad Muni, being Trikala Gyan, he can see in the future how the fallen conditioned souls in Kali Yuga, they'll be suffering so much. So this is the pain in Narad Muni's heart, seeing the suffering of the conditioned souls of Kali Yuga. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to pacify Narad Muni, he tells or explains to Narad Muni that don't worry, I will personally appear in Kali Yuga, and with the weapon, with the sword of Harinam Sankirtan, I will propagate my holy name. And in this incarnation, I won't personally kill all the demons, but with the sword of the holy name, with the soul of Harinam Sankirtan, I will kill the demons in the hearts of all the fallen conditioned souls. Then there is one verse in Chaitanya Mangal, or a few verses, where Mahaprabhu, he instructs Narad Muni that from my side, I will try and deliver all the fallen conditioned souls. And if there are any conditioned souls who escape from my grips, if there are any fallen conditioned souls who somehow or other escape from my mercy and somehow or other escape and go to other lands in the West, then don't worry, in the future I'll send my Senapati Bhakta, which as we all know is Srila Prabhupada. So in this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he pacifies Narad Muni, that I'll personally come, and with the sword of Harinam Sankirtan, I will deliver the fallen conditioned souls. And if there are any fallen conditioned soul who escape from my grips, for those fallen conditioned souls who escape me and go to the West, those fallen conditioned souls, don't worry about them. In the future soon, my personal Senapati Bhakta, my personal commander-in-chief devotee, he will personally descend and he will deliver all those whom I couldn't deliver. So in this way, Srila Prabhupada's glorious appearance in this material world is predicted by none other than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the position of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is no ordinary personality. Srila Prabhupada is the personal Senapati Bhakta of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the personal commander-in-chief of Sri Sri Radha Krishna, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when I was reading the story in the Gauranga book, I was like shocked, I was like astonished. Here is a conversation going on between Narad Muni and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Narad Muni and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they're having this conversation, and who are they talking about? They're talking about our Srila Prabhupada. So this is the amazingly, inconceivably great position of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's name comes up in a conversation between none other than Narad Muni and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu is personally telling Narad Muni, pacifying, don't worry, I have my Srila Prabhupada, I have my Senapati Bhakta, he will personally come in the future. All those who escaped from my grips, whoever is left, whoever is not delivered, my Senapati Bhakta will come and deliver them. And this way all the fallen conditioned souls of Kali Yuga, they'll be delivered. So in this way, Srila Prabhupada's appearance is prophesied by none other than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Sri Chaitanya Mangal. And I made a few notes, just general notes about Prabhupada's life of different years, what Prabhupada did, so we can go through them, remembering Prabhupada's glorious pastimes during this time. So Prabhupada, he appeared in this material world by the desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as predicted by Mahaprabhu in the year 1896. And another story actually in regard to Srila Prabhupada's appearance. This time there's one particular lila where Prabhupada, he himself explains how Krishna asked him to come to this material world. This remembrance is shared by His Grace Bhavananda Prabhu. So Bhavananda Prabhu, one time he was in Mayapur with Srila Prabhupada, and I think at that time Upendra, he was Prabhupada's personal servant, he was also there. So Bhavananda Prabhu and Upendra, they were present with Srila Prabhupada. There was no one else. And in the course of the conversation with Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada explains to Bhavananda Prabhu that actually this material world is a very horrible place. And actually I didn't want to come to this material world. But Krishna, he forced me to come here. And then Prabhupada, he goes on to explain the conversation that he had with Krishna. Prabhupada tells Bhavananda Prabhu that I was telling Krishna that, Krishna, I don't want to come to this material world is a nasty place, I don't want to go. But Krishna was insisting that, no, you have to go. Have faith in me, just you go to the material world and just write your books, I'll take care of everything. Just go, write your books, I'll take care of everything. But still I was insisting, no, Krishna, I don't want to go, there's too much Maya, I don't want to go through material world is a nasty place. But still Krishna again and again was insisting, no, you must go, just write these books, you just go and write the books, and I'll take care of everything, you don't have to worry about anything. And in this way Prabhupada says, finally Krishna won the argument, and then I came. And I wrote these books. So in this way Prabhupada, he himself shares this, in this beautiful pastime of his supreme position. So Srila Prabhupada is no ordinary person, as we can hear from these beautiful leelas. So Prabhupada, he appeared here in this material universe, this planet Earth, in the year 1896, and soon after his birth, his parents, they took him to an astrologer and they got a reading done. And again, amazingly, the astrologer, he predicted that this son of yours, he's a great devotee of the Lord. In the future, in his advanced age, he will cross the ocean, he will go into the distant western lands, and he will take this science of bhakti and spread it in the western countries. Not only that, he will establish 108 temples around the world. So all this was predicted right from the start of Srila Prabhupada's appearance in this world by an astrologer. Then in 1922, so 1922 means at that time Srila Prabhupada would have been 26 years old of age. At that time Srila Prabhupada met His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And as we all know, the famous pastime, Prabhupada, he didn't want to actually go because he had met many pseudo-devotees, pseudo-gurus and swamis. So Prabhupada was a bit suspicious that this person will also be one of these bogus gurus that would always come to my father's house. But his friend insisted, no, this particular Vaishnava devotee is a bona fide devotee. You just come and meet him, just come. And this way, being convinced by his friend, Prabhupada goes and meets Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. And Prabhupada is amazed and impressed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's conviction and his teachings. Prabhupada was challenging Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur that, you're talking and preaching these teachings of Mahaprabhu, but more important than this is us getting freedom from the British, who will hear the message of Mahaprabhu while we're under the rule of another land, while we're under the rule of another nation, while we're under the rule of the British. First we must get freedom from the British, then we can talk about spreading this movement of Mahaprabhu. And at that time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he makes that famous statement that Krishna consciousness is so important, it can't wait for anything. It is the most dire, it is the most urgent and the most important need of every single conditioned soul in this planet. There is nothing more important, there is nothing more urgent need for the conditioned soul than this Krishna conscious movement, and he can't wait for anything else. When Prabhupada heard this, he was very much impressed and convinced. And Prabhupada, he himself explains that at that time, in his heart, he accepted Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur as his spiritual master. And it was in that first meeting only, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he instructed Srila Prabhupada that you're an educated young man, you have good English, why don't you preach the glories of Mahaprabhu in the Western land in the English language. So that was the first instruction Srila Prabhupada got. And Prabhupada never forgot the instruction. Even though that was the first meeting, Prabhupada, those words entered into Prabhupada's consciousness and he always carried that within his heart. So again, Prabhupada, he is showing from his own example the perfect, ideal mood of a disciple. In one purport in Bhagavatam, Prabhupada explains that the perfect spiritual master, the perfect guru, is one who from his side is a perfect disciple of his spiritual master. So for someone to qualify to become a spiritual master, he from his side must also be a perfect disciple of his spiritual master. Only if he himself is a perfect disciple of his spiritual master can one himself be a spiritual master and instruct others. So we can see this with Srila Prabhupada, how he was a perfect disciple of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that was in 1922. And then in 1936, 14 years later, so at this time Srila Prabhupada was 40 years of age. At that time, it was at this time Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he departed from this material world. And 2 weeks before Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur departed, again, Prabhupada's spiritual master emphasized or re-instructed Srila Prabhupada that if you ever get any money, print books, and I want you to preach this message of Mahaprabhu by writing books in English language and spreading this in the Western country. So these were the instructions given by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, through his whole life, he was contemplating on this and he was working on this. It's given by one time Srila Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He was having a conversation with one of the sons of Srila Prabhupada. And one of these sons of Srila Prabhupada was explaining that Prabhupada, during his Grahastha life, during his time in the Grahastha ashram, Prabhupada's schedule was such that in the morning he would wake up very early, do his deity worship, do his deity puja, and he would personally cook for his deities. And not only that, during this day, although Prabhupada is a working man, although Prabhupada is running his own business, every day, Prabhupada's son explained, every day Prabhupada would personally read and study Srimad Bhagavatam for 4 hours every day. So this was Prabhupada's strict sadhana schedule. He would personally engage in deity worship Shri Shri Radha Krishna, and also he would have this strict sadhana of doing 4 hours of Bhagavatam study every day. Despite being a businessman and despite having a big family with many children and having a wife, still somehow or other Prabhupada was able to manage everything, manage the maintenance of his family, maintenance of his business, and at the same time, somehow or other Prabhupada found the time to engage in deity worship and also study Srimad Bhagavatam for 4 hours every day. So in this way we can see Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada explained that as soon as he got the instructions from his spiritual master, he never forgot that, and he was always meditating on that particular instruction of his spiritual master. How can I fulfill this? So we can see how Prabhupada was trying to fulfill it even during his years in the Grahastha ashram. That he was personally studying the Bhagavatam, so in the future he could translate Bhagavatam, write purports, and spread the Bhagavatam in the English language. So during his years in the Grahastha ashram, Prabhupada was constantly engaged in the study of Bhagavatam. Not only that, in 1944, so at this time Prabhupada was the age of 48. At that age of 48, Prabhupada, he started the Back to Godhead magazines. So again, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had instructed him that you write in the English language the glories of Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada, he personally started the Back to Godhead magazine in 1944 at the age of 48. And not only that, generally in the publication of any book or literature, there's the writer he writes, and then there'll be an editor. The editor will edit whatever the author writes. Then there will be, then there's the problem of buying the paper. Then one has to go and fetch paper for the printing, and then one has to personally go and arrange for some printing company to print his work. And then finally there's the work of selling the piece of literature. But in Prabhupada's case, he was a one-man army. Srila, His Holiness Satsarup Maharaj in Lilamrit, he explains that Prabhupada, he personally did all of these different activities of publishing books. Prabhupada personally, he wrote his Back to Godhead magazines. Then after personally writing, Prabhupada, he himself edited the magazines. Then Prabhupada, he himself went and bought paper. So Prabhupada himself would go out to different businesses, inquire, where can I get paper for a good price? So he himself would buy paper. Not only that, Prabhupada, he himself would go to different printing companies, inquire for prices, and then sign the deal with different printing companies to print his own magazines. Then not only that, after finally his magazines was printed, Prabhupada, he himself would personally go out on the streets and would personally sell his own Back to Godhead magazines. So in this way, we see that Prabhupada, he is actually the first original book distributor. Later on we'll see in Prabhupada's lifetime how Prabhupada was so heavily pushing on the Sankirtan movement by telling his devotees, to instructing the devotees to please distribute books, please distribute books, please distribute books. And again, this is all going back to to the instruction he received from his spiritual master, that if you ever get any money, print books. And Prabhupada, he personally was doing this right from his start. At this time, it's in 1944, Prabhupada's at the age of 48. And at the age of 48, Prabhupada is personally writing, editing, buying paper, personally printing the books or printing the magazines. And not only that, he's personally going at the age of 48 in the streets of India and personally selling his own Back to Godhead magazines. And in the course of selling his magazines, it's explained in Lilamrit, that one time Prabhupada, he comes across just an ordinary karmi on the street, and this karmi, seeing Prabhupada trying to sell his Back to Godhead magazines, this karmi, he instructs Prabhupada that, you've printed these magazines, that's okay, but better than writing magazines is if you write books. Magazines, people, they don't value so much. People, they take it, it's just like a newspaper. People, they take it, they read it, and they just throw it in the bin. Magazines, they don't last long, and people, they don't value or take magazines so seriously. Instead of writing magazines, what you should do, you should write books. So in this way, just an ordinary karmi on the street just instructed Prabhupada with these words. And again, Prabhupada, he took those words to his heart. He took those words coming just from ordinary karmi as the words coming from his own spiritual master, or as the words coming from Krishna himself through the mouth of this person. In some of the purports of his Bhagavatam, Prabhupada explains that the nature of an intelligent man is such that he is able to pick up gold even from a filthy place of garbage. So even though there might be a big pile of garbage, lot of filth and dirt, still an intelligent man is such that if he sees gold in that filth of garbage, he will still go and collect that gold. So in this way we see Prabhupada exemplifying this same quality. Prabhupada, what's his level? He's Jagat Guru, he's a pure Nitya Siddha devotee of the Lord, and here's a random karmi instructing him. Out of ego, Prabhupada could have thought, who is this person to instruct me to write books and not write magazines? But no, Prabhupada, in a very humble mood, he took it, that these words coming from this ordinary karmi is actually my Guru Maharaj instructing me, is actually Krishna himself instructing me. What he is saying is actually right. What he is saying makes sense. Let me follow that. So in this way, it's given in the Shastras that whenever any good instruction comes to us, we should accept it. Even though that good instruction might come from a person who's not so advanced or a person who's not well situated, still, if that person is not well situated, if he is giving good instruction, one should still accept it for one's own benefit. Just like an intelligent person who'll pick up gold from a place of filthy garbage. So from that point onwards, Prabhupada then started writing books. Instead of writing only Back to God magazines, Prabhupada started focusing on translating Bhagavad Gita and translating Srimad Bhagavatam. So it was at the age of, in the year 1959, Prabhupada, he took sannyas and he got initiated as Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj by one of his god brothers. So 1959 means at that time Prabhupada was the age of 63. So at the age of 63, Prabhupada, he took sannyas. And soon after taking sannyas, Prabhupada, he shifted to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, Prabhupada, he took up residence in the famous temple of Shri Shri Radha Damodar. So as we know, the famous temple of Shri Shri Radha Damodar was the personal deities worshipped by Srila Jiva Goswami. And we can say that that's where Prabhupada's personal bhajan kutir was. And it is in this famous tirtha, this holy place of Shri Shri Radha Damodar temple, that Prabhupada, he personally translated the first 3 volumes, or the whole first canto, Prabhupada personally translated in 3 volumes in Radha Damodar temple. And during Prabhupada's stay in the Radha Damodar temple, Prabhupada would get dreams of Srila Rupa Goswami. He would personally see Srila Rupa Goswami. And it was in this place, Prabhupada, he wrote the first 3 volumes of first canto. And later on, Prabhupada, he explains to his disciples that these years of mine in the Radha Damodar temple were very special. In these years, I personally wrote these first 3 volumes of Bhagavatam, which I personally brought to the West. Later on we'll see when Prabhupada, he goes to the West, his only possessions he carries with him to the West is simply a whole trunk full of first canto of Bhagavatam. That's the only thing he carries. He carries a whole trunk full of first volume of Bhagavatam, first canto of Bhagavatam, and 40 rupees. That's the only thing he carries. So later on, Prabhupada, he instructs his disciple that when I went to the West, when I went to America, when I went to New York or Boston, I didn't come empty-handed. I came with me along with me, I bought the first canto of Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada explains that while he was in the Radha Damodar temple, everything that's needed for us to be learned, the entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness, the entire philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada said, he put into the first canto of Bhagavatam. And this way Prabhupada, he explains to his disciples that this first canto of Bhagavatam, which Srila Prabhupada wrote, is very special in the sense that the entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness that we need to know, from the beginning to the end, the entire philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada said, the whole entire philosophy he packed or he crammed into his purports of first canto. So in this way, Prabhupada explains to his disciple that this first canto which he wrote personally in Sri Radha Damodar temple, under the blessings, under the guidance of Srila Jiva Goswami, is very special. Then in the year of 1965, so 1965 means at that time Prabhupada was at the age of 69. So at the age of 69, in the year 1965, Prabhupada left India on the Jaladuta ship to go to America. And for us now, if we want to go to a different country, it's very easy. You just book a plane, get on the plane, in one day, in 24 hours max, you would have arrived at your destination. But in those days, Prabhupada, he didn't go by airplane, he went by ship. And the journey from India to America, it didn't take 1 day, it didn't take 2 days, it didn't take 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, no. It's given that the entire journey by ship from India to America took 37 days. And we can contemplate Prabhupada's position on this ship. For example, I was thinking that here we are, during the COVID lockdown, we're stuck in our homes or we're stuck in the temple, we can't go outside. We're forced by the authorities to just stay in one building for a month, 2 months. And just 1 week staying in home, 1 week staying in the temple, not being able to go out, immediately starts getting to our mind. Immediately we start feeling a bit uncomfortable. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a whole month just stuck at home, not being able to go outside. Immediately, mentally we get so agitated. And here is Prabhupada, he's going through the same position, not just the same position, he's going through even worse. For us, we're in a building, but we're still on solid ground. But here's Prabhupada's position. He's stuck, he's confined to a ship, and it's not solid ground he's confined to. He's there in the middle of an ocean, nowhere. When Prabhupada looks out of his window, all he could see from that window of the ship is just vast ocean. He can't see anything else. It's just the ocean all around him. For us at least, okay, we're stuck in our home during the lockdown. We can look out the window, we can see the park or some buildings, some birds flying. But for Prabhupada, for a whole 37 days, all he could see was just water around him, nothing else. Not only that, he's not in some solid building. He's on a ship in the middle of the ocean. And the ship, as we know, constantly will be going like this. Imagine that 37 days, you're stuck on a ship, you can't see anything, all around you, all you can see is just water, and the ship is constantly moving from side to side. If we think being stuck in the COVID lockdown is bad, just imagine how much difficulty, how much suffering Prabhupada would have went through on the Jaladuta ship. So during this time, Prabhupada, he had 2 heart attacks. So much hardship Prabhupada went through just to give us Krishna consciousness in the West. And all Prabhupada was carrying during this time, as I was mentioning before, was a trunk full of Srimad Bhagavatams, his first canto of Bhagavatam, which he had personally wrote, translated, and personally printed himself. He carried with him to the West. And Prabhupada explains, this was my only possession. The only thing I brought with me to the West was my trunk full of Bhagavatam. So in this again we see the faith of the spiritual master in Krishna. As we're reading in today's verse, one of the qualities of the spiritual master is that he is fully fixed at the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. He is fully taken shelter of the divine couple. So again we see in this pastime Prabhupada's faith and conviction in Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's faith and conviction in the holy name in Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. The only thing he's carrying is Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada has faith that if I take this Bhagavatam, if I spread the Bhagavatam in the West, naturally the Krishna consciousness movement will spread. And Prabhupada, he offers, as we know, the famous prayers on the Jaladuta, Markane Bhagavat Dharma, where he's praying to Sri Sri Radha Gopinath that, my dear Lord, that I'm simply insignificant, I'm just a puppet in your hands. I am here in this foreign land. I don't know how these people would take to Krishna consciousness. All these people, they're all engaged in all the sinful activities, all the degraded activities of Kali Yuga, they're all absorbed in it. I can't see how they'll take up Krishna consciousness. But you, my Supreme Lord, you're the Supreme Controller. Whatever you desire can happen. So if you desire, these persons who are so falling can also become your devotees. My dear Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you want to make me dance, please make me dance. Please make me dance just like a puppet in your hands, and please empower me so I can make these fallen conditioned souls into your devotees. So again we see the very humble servant mood, Dasya mood Prabhupada is showing in praying to Sri Radha Gopinath for empowerment, to help him fulfill the instruction of his spiritual master, to help him spread the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So those prayers that Prabhupada offers is very nice for us to go through today, if we have time, Markandeya Bhagavad prayers. So in this way Prabhupada, he arrives in America. Then, okay, those 37 days on the ship, they were a hard struggle, we discussed. But not only that, for the next year, Prabhupada in America, it was again a struggle. From the year 1965 to 1966, for that first year in America, Prabhupada went through a lot of struggle. He wasn't getting much success, externally speaking. And Prabhupada was struggling to get ends meet. He didn't have any source of income. He would personally sell his books to get money in America, and this way he would maintain himself. And he didn't have much supporters or followers. And that first year in America, Prabhupada, he himself explains, was extremely difficult for him. But by Krishna's mercy, Prabhupada again, he's showing determination in bhakti, that patience in bhakti, in serving or fulfilling the instructions of the spiritual master. The instruction from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada got in the 1922 when he was 26 years old. And now here in 1965, Prabhupada is 69 years old. So how many years has passed? 43. So only after 43 years have passed since Prabhupada got the instruction. But still Prabhupada is remembering that instruction he got from his spiritual master 43 years ago. And still at the age of 69, Prabhupada is still trying to fulfill that instruction. Even though he's 69 years old, even though he's not getting much success for a whole year, still Prabhupada is not giving up. Prabhupada is still going on. So Prabhupada from his own side, he's showing determination in fulfilling the instructions of the spiritual master. Even at the age of 70, even at the age of 69, even though for a whole year he's trying, he's not getting any success, still Prabhupada is not giving up. Still Prabhupada is trying to fulfill the instruction of his spiritual master. And then finally in 1966, as we all know the pastime which happens in Leelamrita, Prabhupada, he meets Mukunda Maharaj and other devotees who come to help Prabhupada and establish the famous storefront at 26 2nd Avenue. And in this way, ISKCON is finally established. In the year 1966, Prabhupada, he established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And in 1967, Prabhupada, he establishes the Ratha Yatra. And this way, Prabhupada, he brings Jagannath, the Lord of the universe, to the West. His Holiness Bhakti Purushottama Maharaj, he very nicely, funnily, he explains during his Jagannath lectures that Lord Jagannath, initially, he was being worshipped by tribal people in India, and he was just eating some fruits, roots. And one day, Lord Jagannath thought that for so long I've been worshipped by these tribal people, and I've just been eating fruits and roots and leaves. I would like to eat something more opulent. So then Jagannath, he got King Indradyumna to come and take him and worship him with great awe and reverence, with great opulence. And in this way, Jagannath, he established Chapan Bhog. So in this way, Jagannath, he went from eating fruits and roots to getting very nice opulent Chapan Bhog every day. And this way he got Indradyumna Maharaj to establish this. Then His Holiness Bhakti Purushottama Maharaj, he explains, then after some time, Lord Jagannath, he had a